Hey, good morning. Hope you're having a good week. I hope everything's going good for you and going as well as it can be. And we're still struggling through the pandemic and all of those things, but it does seem to be loosening up some of the restrictions and all. So I hope you're doing well. That kind of ties into what I want to talk to you about today. Just kind of encourage you, but I want to give you a verse, and it's from Paul, the Apostle Paul, and he wrote this to Timothy in 2 Timothy chapter 4 and verse 7. He says of his life, he's talking about him personally, Paul was. He says, I have fought the good fight, and I have finished the race, and I have kept the faith. And, he, you know, I say this, there's a lot of satisfaction in finishing something that you begin. I don't know if you're like me, but I have quite a few projects around my house that I started, and some of those I have not finished yet. Those are the ones that bug me the worst. But the ones that I do finish and have the satisfaction of finishing and completing those things, there's a certain satisfaction to that. And the success of a race, a foot race, any kind of race really, is determined not only by how well you begin, but also by how well you end the race. Back years ago when I was much younger, in high school, I was fairly fast runner in high school. I played football and all of that. Wasn't a great athlete by any means, but I was kind of fast. And so one day, me and my little brother Anthony were out at Westlake Track, and I decided, we were just walking around out there doing some stuff, and I decided, in my arrogance and in my pride, I was going to challenge him to a foot race. And he's about 3 years younger than me. And I thought, well, I'm just going to show him how fast I am. I'm just going to prove to him how fast I am. And just very arrogant, just the way I was then. And but anyway, he didn't really want to. And I finally talked him into it. And I said, I'll make it even better. I'll give you a 25-yard head start. We were on the track, and we were going to do a quarter mile, just one lap around. I said, I'll give you 25 yards. I'll let you start before me, and we'll do the race that way. And so he got his place up there 25 yards from me, and I got on the start line, and somebody yelled go, and we took off. And I took off like a bullet, man. I looked good coming off the line there. And he took off, and he was doing his thing, I was doing my thing, and I was catching him. The first turn, I was closing in on him pretty fast. And by the second turn, I had caught up to him and was just about to pass him. And let me tell you, my hamstring locked up and brought me to almost tears. It was so bad, and it hurt so bad. And I said, I can't run the race. We can't race. And he's like, yeah, we can. And he kept on going. I said, no fair. And I couldn't race anymore. And he went ahead and finished the race, and he beat me. And I called foul. It wasn't fair. But the truth of it is, he beat me fair and square. But I learned some lessons in that little race, a lot of lessons actually. But I learned to watch what I brag about and my arrogance and my pride, but also that, how you begin something, no matter how good it looks and no matter how fast or how well it looks, it really is not only that, but it's how you finish, how you persevere, and how you finish the race. And that's really what it's all about. And so going back to Paul and thinking about Paul this morning, Paul rejoiced that he not only began his race well, but that he had also finished it. And Paul was hard on himself at times. He was slow to say that he had done anything great or good or anything like that. He always felt like he was the chiefest of sinners and the worst of the worst. But he did finish the race. He did do what God called him to do. And in that, I think his prize would have been, if you could have said he was awarded a prize at the end of his life. He had this amazing faith in Christ, in God. And he lived his life to the nth degree in that. And he also, just this powerful presence of God in his life. And that was really his prize at the end of his race on this earth. But of course he got greater reward than that as he went on to heaven. But the Christian life isn't easy. Let's be real. There's some religions out there that would teach you otherwise. That if you're a Christian, if you've got if you're following Christ, that you shouldn't suffer, you shouldn't go through hard times, you shouldn't be sick, you shouldn't fight cancer, you shouldn't do this, and if you do, your faith is lacking. Let me tell you something, that's a big lie. That is just absolutely not true. The Christian life, just like any other life, is going to be tough. But, there's things, but many Christians, I think, often begin their walk with God excited and ready to go and just on fire, and then tough times come. And somebody somewhere has told them that they, you're not in favor with God anymore if you suffer, if you struggle. I guess, I don't know, but too many Christians just leave the race and start doing their own thing. And walk away from the pilgrimage which is in God. I'm not saying they lose salvation necessarily, but that's not what I'm saying at all. But what they do is walk away from allowing God to lead them anymore. And I've seen way too many Christians, that just when they struggle, when they go through tough times, when things just aren't the way they think they are, or temptation comes into their life, and they go after some temptation that guides them away from what God intended for them. It's sad to see, but it's real. It happens way too often. I've seen it a lot in my ministry. But, Paul described his Christian life as a battle. And he says, listen, it's tough. There were times in his life where he struggled, but he persevered. He stayed with it. There were times in Paul's life where he struggled to be faithful to God, but he persevered. He stayed with it. I think sometimes his thorn in the flesh might have been self-doubt. It might have been, remembering who he used to be too often. And I think possibly self-confidence in God and in that strength in God, and maybe some depression. Maybe it was his thorn in the flesh. That's just my thoughts. But Paul faced a lot of crazy things in his life. He faced persecution. He faced misunderstanding, betrayal, self-doubt, as I said. I think he struggled with that. But his Christian life was anything but easy, for sure. Yet he persevered. That's just Paul did. Now, let me say this in relation to that. Your race, your own race, is not determined by how you begin the race, but by enduring to the finish. Publicly, Baptists are bad about this. Publicly announcing in church, your commitment to Christ, which is wonderful, making a public commitment. I think that's part of what we do. But thinking that's it, and that's the whole package of who we are as Christians. Really, that can't even compare. Making a public statement at the beginning cannot even compare to a lifetime of devotion to his cause. This just even saying that brings me to so many people that have been examples and just wonderful influences on me in my Christian walk, and who they are. Man, they lived. I think the thing that impressed me about so many of those people was how they endured. Even in the toughest of times, they endured, and they kept going no matter what came their way. I'd say to you, I'm going to just say this in a way of encouragement, and I'll finish up, but just use Paul, study Paul and see him as a model maybe for you. Paul was somebody who did this, and how can you use him for a model? But live your life in such a way that one day you can say, just like Paul did, that I have fought a good fight, and I have finished the race, and I have kept the faith. Man, I encourage you, don't give up. I know it's tough, and I know times are odd and crazy right now, and I know things are, it's just, sometimes it's tough. But don't listen to the enemy. Don't listen to the devil who says something, there's something better than what Christ has for you. There's something better out there. Don't do that, but endure, persevere, stick to the race, and don't quit. Quit the pilgrimage, I guess is a great word, of the race. Stick to it. And man, how you finish the race, it really is important how you finish. Thank you for listening. I hope it's been a blessing to you. We'll talk to you later.